Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of In Her Element series. We're having conversations of power, conversations of purpose, and of peace as women. This is a series for women by women. I'm your host, Fazila Kumalo, and I'm so honored to share the space with you in this series. In Her Element is a series that brings together women who are just here, showing up every day, living boldly, leading beautifully, and thriving on their own terms. Each conversation we're going to have here is a reminder that power doesn't always have to rule. Sometimes it flows gentle, gracefully, and still leaves an impact. Tonight's episode is called Redefining Power, Soft and Feminine Leadership. And we're going to talk about what it means to lead from a place of authenticity, softness, and still be strong and show up as a leader that you are. We'll talk about leadership, yes, but also just life and how we show up, not just at work, but in our homes, our relationships, and within ourselves. I am joined by a phenomenal guest tonight, someone I deeply admire, Busiswa Dlamini, who is currently serving as the chairperson of the European Union Youth Advisory Board in Eswatini. She leads, she's a leader, she's a change maker, and a woman who truly leads with her heart. In this recorded session, she shares with us some of the advocacy work she does as a leader, and she shares with us what deeply grounds her as a woman in all the spaces. Welcome, Busiswa, and I'm so honored to be hosting you today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. What an honor. It's so nice to be introduced like that, you know. And disclaimer, we are recovering with colleagues. And probably we're still fighting that. We're still fighting that because we were supposed to start this meeting at 7, but we both had other engagement that had us leading to having us to start a bit late. So it's part of the package. It's part of the package.
Right. We have just started hearing what you're doing, which is quite amazing. But let's not talk about leadership now. Let's not talk about work now. We just want to know who Busiswa is. Who are you at home? What roles do you play in your day-to-day life as a woman, as a sister, as a daughter, as a mother, a friend?
Well, I guess you just mentioned everything that I am. So I am the firstborn at home. I am a sister. I'm a big sister. I get to play the big sister role. I'm the first. I'm the second grandchild, but more like the first because I'm the first girl. So I get to play the big sister role in all my cousins and my younger sisters and my younger brothers. I am also a mother of a 2-year-old. I am a daughter. I am a cousin to some. I'm a sibling. Yeah, yeah.
It's so interesting that we're talking about all of these relationships and you're literally on the road from work. I just want to know what brings you back to yourself, after these hectic days. What do you do for fun?
Well, it's different things. It's different things. On hectic days like this, definitely a cup of coffee and getting back into my warm pajamas, getting back into warm pajamas and a cup of coffee to just rewind and just playing some music. That's just like the basic way of just having but normally, I'm a very adventurous person. I love going out. I love nature. So if I'm hiking, I'm at my happiest. If I'm somewhere just watching animals or doing something of that sort, I'm at my happiest in that regard. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Now let's bring this conversation back to work, to leadership. Can you tell us a bit more about what you do? I know you serve in so many, well, boards, rather. You're in leadership positions. So what do you do there exactly? What positions do you hold there?
Oh yeah, I get to serve in so many different positions. am privileged, I get to have these positions, but I see them as an opportunity to serve. As you put it, I get to serve as the chairperson of the European Union Youth Advisory Board in Eswatini. I am the executive director for SUMISA Youth Climate Network. I'm the Secretary General of the Institute of Waste Management in Eswatini, and I am the regional coordinator for Climate Years, which is like a youth ecumenical movement which focus on climate change. So basically, I'm just in the leadership space, but mostly I'm practicing in the space of climate change. So yeah.
Right. Just zooming into those roles, have you ever felt the need to lead, not as Busiswa, not as a woman, for some whatever reason? Because I mean,
Is there a breakdown on your side?
I can hear you well. Can
Can
you
you
hear
hear
me?
me now?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. I just wanted us to zoom into your leadership roles. So the question was really, have you ever felt the need or the pressure to lead like somebody else? Because I mean, for the longest time in society, we've always believed that leadership was for men. Is feminine leadership is
Yeah,
a thing?
yeah, it is. I've had the privilege of having started leadership at a very young age. When you're still just curious and just trying things out, and you're still also figuring yourself out. And I think when I started leadership, prominently men were doing so well in the
Mm,
leadership space, and I'd love to believe there was still the conversations around are women great leaders? Are women the next thing? Are women doing it right? Do women deserve to be in leadership? So definitely, when you're still trying to figure yourself out and you're not so sure about yourself and all of that, and you're not sure where you belong in the conversation, where you're not even so sure if you should be in leadership, and all that you hear is that men are doing well and it's not a woman's space to be. So definitely, you get into that space, especially when you're young, you get into that space. Most of the people that are inspiring you are men.
mhm,
And when you're marrying someone who is not of your gender, and when you are still young and you're still trying to discover yourself, the first thing that you do is to act like them. You start to behave like them because
mhm,
you are copying what they are doing, because that is what you think is the right thing to do. So yeah, it exists. It exists, and one of the roles that I didn't mention was also I'm part of Nulega Women's Network, which was a very important network that I joined, which changed my perspective of leadership and get how I can actually serve and how I can get to discover myself
mhm,
and come through as a leader, as a woman, just doing it as myself. I remember one of the mentors that we had, and we asked her how she did it so well, and she said, "I never have to get into this room and address myself or appear as a woman, because I just have to appear as myself."
okay.
And that changed everything. That changed the whole perspective to say, actually, if you're comfortable in who you are, if you have accepted and you have discovered who you are, however that you get to lead is who you get to lead as, and then that fits into you leading as a woman.
Mhm. Right. When you started, you mentioned that during your early experiences of, leadership, you were told that men are doing so well and you'd find yourself mimicking their leadership styles. I'd like to know what that is really. Is that, do they lead louder or tougher or they're more assertive?
Yeah, it definitely being more assertive,
Mm,
definitely being more assertive, and I think it's actually one of the things that I had to unlearn. Where you get to be more of a dictator, you know, more than just allowing yourself to lead as, because you assume that most of the times that's the best way to lead because that is how other people are doing it. And there's also that assertiveness, but I've also learned to appreciate that actually I am a very assertive woman. I definitely know my ground, I definitely know who I am. But there's also a certain way of doing it where you start to realize that in as much as I am an assertive person, but am I really doing that because that is who I am, or that is what I assume that is what people need, or that is what makes a great leader to be a great leader?
So I'm trying to understand all of that as well. So does it mean that it's hard for women to lead with empathy or with softness and still show their intellect in leadership? Is it hard for them? Um, do they have to be more assertive instead of being empathetic? Soft?
Definitely no. Definitely no. I think one of the myths that has made even us women on ourselves is believing this theory that says women are so emotional, they can't lead because they use their emotions to make decisions and not logical. Which, in actual sense, when you start to break down the power of someone leading with their heart and their emotion, you start to understand that that type of leader is what they call a servant leader, because that person is the person that understands that whatever role they are in, they are meant to be there to serve, which means that they will consider other people in how they approach things, in how they address certain things, in how they resolve conflict, in how they are strategic in their organization, in their systems. They'll be considerate of other people. And truth is, whatever you're doing in leadership, if it's not for the people, if it's not about the people, then who are you going to lead at the end of the day? Because you are a leader, because there are certain people that you are working with that you are supposed to lead. So if you're not empathetic about that, if you're not understanding about that, and then that is how we then get to develop toxic work environment. That is how we get to develop conflict, a lot of conflicts. Which, yes, there are other conflicts that arise. Even the Bible says it when they when kube bede conflict ngoma ungaphoxeki, but you know I'd love to believe that um, women lead best with um, with their feminine characters, which is empathy and all of that. As women, one of the innate gifts that God has given to us is nurturing spirit. So having being empathetic actually also it's just one of the things we are nurturers. So if you are a nurturer and you are a leader, it means that lama systems akho lotoba now or lotoa developer, you are most likely going to grow them because you are empathetic. You have an understanding that you need to take care of this thing in order for it to grow. You need to feed it, you need to correct it, you need to. So all of those things are just innate gifts that God has given to us as women. So you can't look down upon those things. You can't say, therefore, women can't lead because they're empathetic. No, those are our strengths. That is what make things that are led by women last for long, because of that character.
Right. For anybody who's just joined the conversation, we are talking about leadership. We are talking about being a leader as a woman in a space where, I mean, for the longest time, it's been believed to be led by men. And we are certainly not trying to create a divide between, women and men leaders. We're trying to learn as much as we can to be the best leaders as women by just being ourselves. And not trying to lead like men, because I do believe that, like Busiswa has said, we are so different, And all of that difference actually is meant to complement each other, especially in leadership roles. So we are still on that conversation. Busiswa, I'm very curious to know in your leadership journey, obviously, as a woman, you have to set so many boundaries to protect yourself, to protect your peace as a leader. What are some of those boundaries you've had to set?
The first one that I recently learned is that you do not have to fight every battle. You have to choose the battles that you fight. That just because I think as women we also like explaining certain things. There's other things that and I don't mean this in a bad way, but sometimes we are easily offended by certain things and we want to address certain things.
I
I, I
sorry
I
to
think
cut
the
you there, but
the
is that a
one thing
bad
I've
thing?
learned is that
Sorry, I cut you there. I was just asking if that's if is that a bad thing to address things, issues, and on the go?
no, 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 no. It's not a bad thing, but it's not everything that you need to address
Okay.
because certain things you just like you need to learn how to pick your battles.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the thing that I had to learn that
Okay.
not every battle is worth fighting for. Not everything that actually offends me
Mm-hmm.
is something that I'm supposed to address. Um, take for instance, in a male dominated world, in a male dominated workspace, um, one of the things that we can't run away from is the the social aspect of things, the social dynamics, ne? That there's this female male dynamics where probably your supervisor is male,
Mm-hmm.
and then now you start having other people assuming that probably you have a good relationship with your supervisor, and now people start assuming or start behaving in a certain you don't have to address that.
Yeah.
You don't have to address that unless it gets to a point where now someone says something or jeopardizes your work. Then you can stand up for yourself and just like, no, 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 no. These are the facts. And facts being, if someone is going to bring up an attitude or whatever, and you're addressing work, like you don't have to fight that person based on you can see that this person has an attitude or has story sonetindzaba tekutshelwa. But you simply address the fact and say, no, if system A needs us to deliver this way, or system B needs us to do A, B, C, and D, that is what we address. The other things you do not have to address. So that was the first. Recently, those were the first things that um I had to learn. And then another thing is, one of the things that I just spoken about, how women lead and how God has given us our abilities, and God we have God given abilities as women. It is just learning to accept those things. It takes a lot for you to actually get to that point. Get to a point where you're not insecure about the fact that you are actually a woman. So I think that's another thing I had to unlearn, just allowing myself to go through the process where I also accept what it means to be a woman, so that I understand that I can show up better even in my leadership role as a woman, having accepted that I am a woman, having appreciated that I am a woman, so that I don't get offended when someone points it out and says, "Oh, you're a woman," because you know when you wear a certain dress and someone points it out that you are a woman, and you're like, oh, but I didn't mean to get that type of attention.
Yeah.
But you are there showing up like a boss lady. When you left your house, you were just like, today I'm going to show up as a boss lady." Then someone reminds you that actually, yeah, that dress is tight.
Mm-hmm.
We see you, and it changes the whole thing. It's like, oh no,
my intention was not, I feel like I'm showing up as my best self today. But then, so those things, having to accept all of those things has been one of the learning points, for me.
Yeah, I think so much of what you've just shared now is all about being emotionally intelligent as a leader, particularly because I mean the first aspect of emotional intelligence anyway is self-awareness. So the essence of this conversation is for us as women to understand ourselves first. How do I deal with my emotions? When I get angry, how do I handle my anger? So that it does not jeopardize my work as a leader and I appear as like an unstable woman, and then they obviously say those things, oh, you're led by a woman, that's why things are going wrong. So it's all about understanding ourselves and being very much aware of how our emotions come into play in all of those situations. Now, speaking about that, speaking about situations, have you ever had to deal with maybe being undermined or dismissed or talked over, maybe in meetings or interactions as a leader? And how do you handle all of that?
Of course it happens. Of course it happens. And sometimes I think this will also take me back to, sometimes it's not even like a gender issue. Like it's not even like a man doing it to you. Sometimes it's also like another woman doing it to you. And I'm not promoting women hate, that that whole narrative. Sometimes people are having a bad day and they will dismiss you.
Yeah.
Sometimes probably your point is not well thought of and someone will dismiss you. I'm not saying that is right or that is correct, but you know sometimes we have wrong timing. Sometimes, like, there are many situations where you find yourself having an experience or an exchange with someone else where, unfortunately, whatever interaction you have, you feel like you're being undermined, and sometimes it's just intentional. And yeah, you can't be in leadership and not have gone under and not have gone through that. And I think if I can go back to some of the scenarios, there's a point in time, when we are okay, in my experiences, through leadership, most of my leadership roles have been through volunteering, and most of the work that I was actually doing was developing organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the times when you're starting something, or you are starting to develop something, how you set ngale ndlela le nicala ngayo nicala you start like unsure. All
Mm.
of you are sort of like unsure of the power dynamics and all of those sort of things. And unfortunately, there has to be some proving that happens in order for you to also get the trust of the people that you can actually lead these people. So, there also gets to be a point, man, on that stage, on that phase, some of the unaddressed or uncommunicated things is, there's definitely someone who always thinks they would have done a better job, or someone who feels like you are now getting more opportunities than you should, and other people deserve those opportunities. And unfortunately, those things have a way of showing up. Those things have a way of showing up, probably in the way that they suggest things, or they start, just making you feel uncomfortable in the direction that you are leading the team. So yeah, yeah. So one of the ways to address that, to be honest with you, in my experience, I had to you have to go back and do an introspection, not because you are doubting yourself, to remind yourself who you are. because you'll definitely doubt yourself. At that point, at that moment, you'll definitely ask yourself, are you taking too much opportunity? Are you taking too much light? Are you leading well? What is the problem? Those questions you definitely ask yourself. But then what is important is for you to go back to the drawing board and remind yourself that actually maybe they might be right about 1, 2, and 3, but this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and certain things are not correct. Certain things, it should have been addressed better. It should have been, and given the opportunity for you to address certain things, depending also on the nature of the relationship, or on the kuthi senatana kangakanani, how much time have you had with those people. I'd advise to even go back and address those things, because there's also another problem with not addressing certain conflict, especially conflict where people will start undermining you, because there's a point where when one person can say something and then the whole team starts undermining you. So there's also goes back to what you I think what one of the questions that you asked about creating boundaries. Then you have to be creating those boundaries where it needs to be said that there's a certain way you can communicate to me. um there's a better way of addressing, even if I was wrong. There's a certain way of addressing certain things. Create those boundaries, and live by those boundaries. Yeah.
I like the way you answered this question. When you started, you mentioned that some of these challenges we face are not like because of our gender. For example, somebody speaking over you, it has nothing to do with that I'm a woman. Maybe my voice was soft. I wasn't loud enough in the room. I wasn't articulate enough when sharing my opinion. So most of these issues I think we face as women is because we have this innate thing to want to prove ourselves because obviously for the longest time we've been conditioned to believe that we're not the best leaders. So given a position, you want to prove yourself when it's not really necessary. So if we learn rather unlearn that first and then learn to deal with issues not from the gender perspective, I think it will go a long way
Mm.
as women in leadership positions. So as we wrap up, I think we only have a few minutes left here. So just one last question. What words of affirmations do you go by that keep you grounded in your feminine power as a leader?
Girl, I have to be honest with you, it is prayer. I have had to learn that the the only way I can actually stay grounded
Mhm.
is in prayer, you know, because I can tell myself that I'm powerful. I can tell myself all these good things, but if I do not believe in them, it won't change me. So there's something about prayer that just makes you believe in the things that you are saying. Recently, one of the scriptures that I love so, so, so much, having gone through depression and all of that, it's the book that speaks about we have been given the spirit of a sound mind. Have not been given the spirit of fear. And just that on its own is just so powerful, because it says to me, you might be a woman, you might be young, you might be a lot of things, you might not know a lot of things, but let me tell you what, the Bible says you have been given the spirit of a sound mind, which means you can be strategic, which means you deserve to be in that role, because God has given you the spirit of a sound mind. You can be strategic, which means that you can lead, you can come up with ideas, you can be innovative, you can solve a complex issues, because God has given you the spirit of a sound mind. So now when I get into that room, I'm not just walking with affirmations that I might not even believe. I'm walking in the power of the word of God, because I know And even if on that day someone will talk down on me, I'll remind myself that no, 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 no. I have been given the spirit of a sound mind. I can make decisions. So, another thing that like saying is that no, women make emotional decisions. No, no, no. The Bible says we've been given the spirit of a sound mind. It doesn't say we've been given the spirit of emotional decisions. It says a sound mind, which means I can also make good and great and life-changing and impactful decisions that can change not even just the organization that we're part of, the nations, the world, actually. So that is the word that I'd love to leave with young women, with other women, that you have been given the spirit of a sound mind and love. And everything that is done in love is done well.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Busiswa, for such a beautiful, powerful session. Just reminding us that leadership, I mean, women leaders are leading with not just intellect, but also with their heart. I think that's very powerful. Thank you for joining us. To everybody that has joined us tonight, thank you so much. Please don't forget to follow the next episode of In Her Element Conversations. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about money, you're going to be talking about finances, and how women can rise into being more financial independent. We hope to see you then. Have a lovely night. Bye.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye.